We're out here in Ts'ikt'aqis right now, also known as the Atleo River in the Hausa territory, and we're doing some forest restoration work in order to restore the biodiversity and hydrological regimes within this watershed that were damaged by rampant logging decades ago. So while chainsaws may have initially been used here as a destructive force, today we're using them for a better future. See, between the late 70s and mid 90s, about half of this entire watershed was clear-cut, logged, and left to regenerate naturally. And this ended up creating some really big issues. So the lack of mature, complex root structures in the soil resulted in more frequent landslides in the upper watershed, and the lack of tree and understory diversity has limited habitat for diversity of critters, including deer, songbirds, bears, raptors, and all sorts of insects. The small rooting structures of these younger trees also makes them more prone to windthrow, an extensive bank erosion, which can result in sedimentation, the simplification of streams, which reduces habitat for salmon to spawn in, and as a foundational species, that means that biodiversity in the area as a whole suffered. When the forest here did regenerate naturally, this second growth stand was comprised of all trees about the same age, the same species, which grew into highly competitive, dense canopy that allowed for very little light to reach the forest floor here, so nearly nothing else could grow and survive, and that is where our restoration work comes in. So the past few weeks, we've been doing some forest thinning here, removing about 30% of the trees in these specific plots, taking the smaller, stunted, poor performing ones and leaving the bigger, healthier trees here, while also creating clearings to break up consistency. This is going to open up space in the canopy to allow light to come down so that different species of ferns, bushes like salmonberry, thimbleberry, huckleberries can all grow here, providing food sources for bears and birds, as well as a diversity of tree species that will eventually plant here to help diversify this stand. Right now, we're in the process of limbing these trees or bucking them into really long sections to drop them to the forest floor, which is going to allow for more space for understory vegetation to establish, and the down trees themselves will slowly decompose, absorbing moisture, slowing surface runoff, creating habitat niches for fungi and insects, and an elevated substrate or a nurse log for other plants and trees to grow on, all while returning nutrients back to the forest here so that everything here can grow big and strong. So ultimately, this work aims to turn a monoculture plantation into a healthy forest, speeding up succession to help facilitate healthy biodiversity and ecological function, not only for those living here on land, but for, the fish and the waterways that feed these ecosystems, so we can create a brighter future for all of us here. Pretty friggin' neat.